I agree the matter requires immediate attention. It's crucial that we act decisively.
Here is your 2,000 word English voiceover script based on the topic. In a dramatic escalation of global tensions, the ongoing conflict between the United States and Iran has reached a critical turning point, one that is shaking the foundations of international alliances. At the center of this crisis lies one of the world's most strategic and sensitive chokepoints, the Strait of Hormuz. This narrow waterway, located between Iran and the Arabian Peninsula, is responsible for transporting nearly 20% of the world's oil supply. Any disruption here doesn't just affect the Middle East, it sends shockwaves across the entire global economy. And now, amid rising military conflict, this vital artery is under serious threat. The situation intensified after U.S. military strikes targeted key Iranian infrastructure, including strategic locations like Karg Island. These attacks were part of a broader campaign aimed at weakening Iran's military capabilities and ensuring freedom of navigation in the region. However, Iran responded with threats to block the Strait of Hormuz entirely, a move that could cripple global energy markets. In response, former U.S. President Donald Trump issued a strong call to international allies. His message was clear: countries that depend on oil passing through the strait must step up and contribute military support, specifically by sending warships to help secure the route. But what followed was unexpected. Instead of a united front, many key U.S. allies, including Australia and Japan, refused to participate in the proposed naval coalition. This refusal has sparked intense debate across diplomatic and military circles. Why would long-standing allies decline such a critical request during a major geopolitical crisis? Let's break it down. Australia, a close defense partner of the United States, made its position clear. Officials emphasized that they are not planning to deploy naval ships to the Strait of Hormuz. While Australia has provided limited support, such as surveillance aircraft and defensive assistance, it has drawn a firm line against direct military involvement in offensive operations. News.com.au. The reasoning is strategic. Australian leaders are concerned about being pulled into a broader regional war, one that could escalate unpredictably and put both military personnel and national interests at risk. Japan, another major U.S. ally, echoed similar concerns. Tokyo has traditionally maintained a delicate balance in its relations with Iran, and any military deployment in the region could jeopardize those ties. Japanese officials have stressed the importance of diplomacy over confrontation, signaling that sending warships could inflame tensions rather than resolve them. But Australia and Japan are not alone. Across Europe, several countries have also declined Trump's request. Nations such as Germany, Italy, and even the United Kingdom have expressed reluctance to engage militarily in the conflict. Instead, they are advocating for diplomatic solutions and de-escalation. The Guardian. This growing resistance highlights a significant shift in global geopolitics. For decades, the United States has relied on its network of allies to support military operations worldwide. But in this case, that support appears fractured. Many countries are questioning the objectives, risks, and long-term consequences of the conflict with Iran. One key concern is the potential for escalation. The conflict has already seen thousands of strikes, missile attacks, and rising civilian casualties. Reports indicate that oil exports through the Strait of Hormuz have dropped dramatically, by more than 60% in some estimates, triggering a surge in global oil prices and raising fears of economic instability. The Times. For countries heavily dependent on imported energy, this is a nightmare scenario. Fuel prices are rising, supply chains are under pressure, and the risk of a global recession is growing. Yet despite these challenges, many nations remain cautious about joining a military coalition. Their hesitation reflects deeper concerns about sovereignty, legality, and the possibility of being dragged into a prolonged war. Even within the United States, there are questions about the strategy. While President Trump has emphasized the need to ensure the free flow of energy, critics argue that military escalation may only worsen the situation. Diplomatic channels, they say, should be prioritized to prevent further destabilization. Meanwhile, Iran has shown no signs of backing down. Tehran has warned that any attempt to reopen the Strait of Hormuz by force will be met with strong retaliation. This includes the potential use of naval mines, missile strikes, and drone attacks targeting both military and commercial vessels. The stakes could not be higher. If the strait remains blocked, the consequences will be felt worldwide, from rising fuel prices in Europe to economic strain in Asia and beyond. And this brings us back to the central question: why are key allies refusing to join the US effort? The answer lies in a combination of strategic caution, political calculation, and a desire to avoid further escalation. Countries like Australia and Japan are weighing the risks carefully. They understand the importance of the Strait of Hormuz, but they also recognize the dangers of entering a volatile conflict with no clear end in sight. Their decision reflects a broader trend in international relations, a move away from automatic alignment and toward more independent decision-making. In today's world, alliances are no longer unconditional. Nations are increasingly prioritizing their own interests, assessing each situation on its own merits, and choosing their level of involvement accordingly. For the United States, this presents a significant challenge. Without strong allied support, maintaining security in the Strait of Hormuz becomes more complex and resource-intensive. It also raises questions about the future of global coalitions and the effectiveness of collective security arrangements. As the conflict continues to unfold, the world is watching closely. Will diplomatic efforts succeed in reopening the strait? Will more countries step forward to support the U.S. mission? Or will this crisis deepen divisions among global powers? One thing is certain: the outcome of this situation will have lasting implications, not just for the Middle East, but for the entire world. Because in a globalized economy, what happens in the Strait of Hormuz doesn't stay there, it affects us all. From rising fuel prices to shifting alliances, this conflict is a reminder of how interconnected our world has become. And as tensions continue to rise, the need for careful decision-making, strategic restraint, and international cooperation has never been greater. The question now is not just who will send warships, but who will take the lead in preventing a wider war. Because in the end, the true victory will not be measured in military strength, but in the ability to restore peace and stability to one of the world's most critical regions.